Well, hello, hello. It is Sarah Jane on this fabulous Friday. I hope you're celebrating your wins, what you're letting go of this week, and deepening into really trusting your sixth sense, those spidey senses that if you're part of my tribe, oh, excuse me, little grief coming up there. You are a highly sensitive empath that has amazing gifts and qualities and capacities that you know that you came here to share in the world. And if you've been one of my students or you are considering working with me, either privately or coming to a 2-day trust process workshop, or taking that online with the Being Human Through Animal Communication courses, one of the things that's very common excuse me, let me have a drink of water. One of the things that's very common when you start to remember that your first line of communication has always been a felt sense of belonging. When you trusted your intuition pre-7-year-old without hesitation until it was perhaps beaten or programmed out of you, that was too woo or not of this world. You're right. You are not of this world. You are and come through this world in your own experiences. And the inner conflict of, is what I'm receiving true? And, or the but always gets in the way to shut down our psychic capacities. Does my bullshit meter just keep going off? So I want to share with you 6 ways, six ways today to trust your sixth sense and answer some of those questions about how do you know whether this is coming from an animal or coming from an intuitive medical scan that you're doing on a person, or just being out in a room full of people and you're picking up thoughts, feelings, and emotions that don't belong to you because you are sensitive and you are empathic and you are the ones that are here to support and guide people back to igniting the fire, the light within themselves. And I want to share, that I think the biggest freedom or the biggest thing that most highly sensitive people, women, want is to experience the freedom of being themselves. Simple as that. The world is a beautiful and a very messed up place. And you can only go so far in listening and being the witness to somebody's story with immense compassion and empathy. And then the contrast of that is that you get to a point where you have to call complete bullshit on it. Because there are so many forms of resistance in life that is only evident in human beings. No other species on the planet resists thriving or resists life. You don't see a flower that suddenly closes up because the sun stopped shining. There's complete trust in that this is the nature of life. This is the feeding cycle of life, that the sun will return, the vitamin D will be there, the warmth will support that flower in moving through its life cycle. And unlike us, we have tiny bits of discomfort because we live in a time-based experience where we want and we need, and then we follow that until the contrast of us holds us back from having the life that we really want. So I want you to accept today that it is part of your core desire is to feel, is to be in a space of receiving as well as giving. and that you're never going to stop wanting more. So the reality of it is how do you align to meet your needs where you're at and meet the needs of other people, because we are interconnected. We are in relationship with all of life. And this is what that transference and vulnerability of intimacy spells into being, is the invitation to look inside of me, into me, see the good, the bad, the ugly, the contrast of all of it, and just take one action. Just take one action. It doesn't matter which direction it is, as long as you take an action. And it's the complete opposite of what I often say is, don't take action until you're fully aligned with what it is that you're calling in. Because the resistance is the action. So what action do you need to take without hesitation right now that's going to get you closer to what you want? And I want to ask you another question of, when you think about the evolution of life on this planet or any other, or in your growth toward more, toward better, what is the first sense that must develop? And the answer has and always will be a type of kinesthetic processing, which is the power of touch. And touch happens in the most primordial regions of the brain and is directly adjacent to that pineal gland, right, which has calcified, because that used to be our way of connecting in with an unseen realm until we shut it down. Atlantis. Do I need to go further? So many timelines in history where it was the sixth sense, the sensibility to know that we are all alchemists, that we are all here to create magic and spell that into being through our words and our actions, was shut down. It's not the third eye, but if you kind of do a right angle, you end up in the pineal gland. And it is an evolutionary sense. It's the oldest region of the brain and the closest resemblance to how the universes and the multi-universes and the planets actually process energy and code those 0 and 1 bits of data that are sitting on top of our DNA, RNA, LNA, right? The epigenetics and data or information. Interesting, isn't it? Because you know this stuff. And just reminding you how to be your own medicine. And it begins with this, with the return to touch, to trusting that you have everything that you need within you. And it's about how you access your true nature so that you can start or in the remembering to repurpose our sense of touch as a doorway for your intuitive processing, right? The sixth sense of just knowing without hesitation that this is how it is. And where animals have been such incredible teachers for me. And it's about getting out of your way. And I realized for me too, is that when there's time, and I'm talking about the construct of time in delivering the information that is coming down, practice putting yourself on the spot, not thinking yourself out of it from the mental construct, but feeling it from the power of that heart-to-heart connection that is instantaneous. So the first thought that comes into your mind, and most of the time, a lot of times when we're doing animal communications or interspecies communication, talking to rocks and trees, it will sound like your own voice when you're new to this. It will sound like bullshit, like you're making stuff up. But trust it anyway and go there and explore that and share that because you don't experience a sense of touch when things physically make contact with you. Just think about that. Emotions, for instance, they're also processed in similar regions of the brain. And that's why people will feel physical pain when they're emotionally hurt. And being highly sensitive empaths that you are, you feel the pain of the earth, of other entities like animals or people or insects or plants. And emotional feelings illustrate that we can use the sense of touch, right? Being in touch with our senses is a good start, so that we can reach out and touch somebody or something from a creative sexual energy of procreation, what we're bringing in, what we're birthing, what we're gestating in that incubator period into our lives. And that is where we often put up barriers to receiving all the information. So you aren't limited to perceiving only physical senses, the sensation of touch or feeling. When it comes through you as that sixth sense, as that spidey senses, the hair standing up on the back of your neck when you walk down a dark alley and get your keys ready because you don't feel safe. What you're really attempting to do is process the world through the lens of felt sense, right? Of really touching life, touching the life force within you that touches the life force in something else, like your dog or a tree or the food that you're about to eat. So processing thought with that sense of feel is the key to leading yourself to freedom, to that untethered life that is beyond the negativity bias or that standard perception that it's just a fluke or you're in the right place or at the right time or whatever it is for you, right? That you're making stuff up, that it can't possibly come from an animal. And I remember once, and this has happened a few times, but being in a space of Gestalt tracking a missing dog. And this was like very early on when I really started to exercise this muscle of my sixth sense. And I was still doubting the information was made up, that it wasn't actually coming from the animal. And he kept showing me this rainbow. When I was asking, where are you? What can you see? He kept saying, I'm at the rainbow, this multicolored rainbow with this pot of gold at the bottom. And it took a little bit of sleuthing and a lot of communication between me and the animal's guardian to realize that the rainbow that the dog was showing us was painted on the wall of a playground, a children's playground that had been locked at night, and he couldn't get out to come home. And we found the dog. I've had this happen before in real simple answers, and I always encourage my students to start with asking simple questions when an animal is relaxed before you start asking the heavy, intense questions of, are you alive, or are you safe, or are you sick? Because animals don't like that heavy vibrational, my dogs are agreeing, that heavy vibration of worry and concern that we often put on our questioning. And I was talking to a horse, and he first meeting, and we were just getting to feel each other and touch each other from a non-verbal heart-to-heart connection. And I asked him, what is it that you most love eating? And he said to me, the cold purple horse sweeties. And if I had let my ego or my mind take me to the place of, well, that's not very helpful, that's not very useful, this person really wanted to know what was going on with her horse, I might not have shared that information. as this heart connection. And when I said to her, by the way, what are these cold red horse sweeties that your horse says he absolutely loves as his favorite treat? She started laughing because he was describing that he gives his person gives him frozen grapes because he loves them so much. So, to learn the language of felt sense, that kinesthetic knowing and trusting that you know how to use it, we have to remember and relearn the language of touch, of felt sense, of feeling another being. And as highly sensitive people, a lot of times we shut that down because the intensity of what we're feeling feels like it's going to kill us. And our nervous systems don't like that. So you have to begin to feel outside of your physical body into your energy body, right? That's where the spidey senses live, in the exterior layer of your Wei Qi. And when you can get in touch with that, then you can start building an internal frame of reference or remembered feelings without the charge. So I want to just share with you, because it is Friday, and this Friday the feature is on remembering that you are an intuitive, all-seeing, all-knowing, all-receiving being that's in a human body. So if you can, if you're driving, just pause this and come back to it later on. But just try this little exercise. I want you to close your eyes. And a great way, if you are anxious or you're feeling like you're being spread really thin or you're jumping all over the place with all the things you need to do, put your one hand under your right armpit and put the other hand on your shoulder, and then close your eyes and just imagine hugging someone, and that includes you, that you really care about, in all their tender bits. And just notice, how does it feel to you in your chest area, or do you feel that somewhere else in your body? And just notice where and which body part is speaking or calling or inviting you to connect and touch that part. And if you didn't feel anything, that's also fine. Just try again. And if you continue to have trouble, you may want to contact somebody that can support you by creating this space of safety so that you can complete reconnecting with the sense of touch. It's one of the first things that I teach my clients who come and learn the trust process, is to notice a sound, notice the feeling of skin on skin, or where your clothes meet your skin, or where your body meets the chair. Because this is an important step, right? Is activating your sixth sense. And now imagine somebody else hugging someone else, and preferably of a different sex than the first person you imagined. And if you're able to get a feeling in your chest area, right, around the heart for both of them, ask yourself if this person A and person B feel the same when you watch them hug. And if they did, practice a couple of times until you can sense, right, through that felt sense of touch, the sixth sense, the difference in the feelings of those two energy bodies. And you can think of that feeling as the biosignature, so the frequency that person is emitting. Because remember, each of us are completely unique and individual. There is nobody else like you on the planet. So we all come in vibrating on our own frequency. And this is the work of biogeometry, radiesthesia. that I love to practice is just like your signature. There's a frequency that is very healing when it is in alignment with who you are. And that's actually an interesting side note too, is next time that you're feeling triggered or you're feeling stressed or you're feeling like you're in some kind of doubt of your intuitive process, of your spidey senses, your sixth sense, I want you to just take a pen and draw your signature and then look at it. And notice if the way that you wrote your name and the energy of what you left on the ink to the paper, it looks or feels different to when you write your signature from an empowered place of confidence, or maybe you're writing $1 million check to one of your charities because your business is just flourishing and you want to give more of your resources back. And compare the signature of when you're high and you're aligned to your mission, vision, and purpose, and when you're doubting that. And notice if the signatures look different and you're looking for subtle senses, right? Subtle shifts in that energy frequency. Because that's a really good way of knowing just how powerful you are at transmuting lower vibrations into a higher state of being. Isn't that fun? And please comment and post and let me know how that feels for you and how beautiful. This is the second night in a row that the termites have come flying in when I've done a Facebook Live, and are just such incredible medicine to remind us to trust in the flow, the universal flow of abundance, of the laws of compensation, the laws of being your own miracle, and trusting the transitional process of where you are and where you're wanting to go, and just allowing yourself to sit with that. So getting back to naming, the language of feeling, when you made contact and reached out and touched yourself, and then reached out and touched somebody else, and then observed two other people touching each other, and naming that feeling, that is the first step in reconnecting with this very ancient wisdom of your all being, all feeling, all knowing infinite self. And with this way of thinking, you can have that feeling without any pictures or words in your head. So you'll simply have a knowing, right? A sixth sense of that person and where they're at in the moment. And that's the beginning of thinking with non-thought, and something that is one of the foundational steps in learning the trust process, is being able to hold the space for yourself to touch your most intimate, sensitive, empathic parts with total transparency and vulnerability, so that you can then hold that as you strengthen it for another being, another person, or another animal. And with a person, it's usually easier to get that feeling because your emotions are kind of like an emitter. They amplify the feeling that you're getting in your heart center. And it can be a little bit tougher at first to get a feeling or a tag for an inanimate object. And that is just because you have little or no emotional connection up until now with that object. So as a result, your biology, your biochemistry won't be able to support you in amplifying that feeling until you actually connect with it. And this is where it's about, daring bravely, of being willing to step outside of your comfort zone and try something different like this. So I invite you, as you sort of ease into the weekend, to just imagine as you go about your day. I'll show you this beautiful creature and see if he'll lose his wings. But aren't they just the most amazing community members? The way they build termite nests is just incredible, and all the sort of, you can even look at that as being getting in touch with your own neurobiology, the way that your body ticks, how you tick, how your personality affects that, how your expression of living through life and contributing through life can be a beautiful thing, even when it's challenging, even when it's when there's a lot of resistance there. It's a beautiful place to be, because you stop resisting the very thing that you're resisting, which a lot of time is just resistance. So just give it a try. Imagine hugging a random object. I've got my crystal, my Himalayan salt crystal, but imagine hugging an object that's contributing to your life, but you've never really been in a place of caring about it. I wash my rock salt quite often, and I put it out in the sun, in the moonlight during a full moon or a new moon, so that it can recharge itself, because it's made up of living, feeling, touching atoms and quarks and solitons and nadis and all those beautiful things. So start with something simple, like an empty coffee cup, or if you're someone that emotionally loves your coffee, maybe that's not the best choice for you. But if that's your kind of, think of a 2x4 piece of wood or something similar that you don't have any kind of emotional attachment to. And when you can begin imagining or physically holding that object with absolute love, compassion, and appreciation, what do you feel in your chest? And for some of you, it might be extremely subtle at the beginning. I'm dancing with these beautiful termites, dropping their wings. So, because your sixth sense, or your pineal gland, right, your third eye, has been somewhat atrophied because you haven't been using it, because no one told you that it was there, or that you didn't need permission to use it. It needs some training, right? Because it's become a little atrophied. And this modern world that we live in doesn't place a lot of reverence or honoring of the sixth sense to survive. But you do, because you're empathic and you're sensitive, and you know that that's what we need in order to thrive. That's what we need to put out there for the world to heal herself. So you may need to practice a bit until you can feel some thing in your chest or your heart. And another way to do this is you can also imagine having like a very small mirror inside your chest with a little window. And when you face the mirror toward the object of your desire, the reflection of the item, it gets impregnated onto your heart. So once you are able to have some success, you're going to build your confidence, and you may begin to feel very differently. You're going to start to discover that everything has a different internal feeling. Its energy vibrational tag is unique to that thing. If you hug trees or just commune in nature, you notice that every tree has its own individual energy frequency. So I encourage you to try and do this with inanimate objects like rocks or crystals, or maybe just connecting with the table that's supporting your computer or the chair that you're sitting in. And notice what it feels like. Because every possible combination of things will reveal new and unique feel likes, right? Those emotional impressions or those frequency codes that are unique to them. And getting back to the question that so many people ask at the beginning of this Facebook Live was, how do I know I'm not making this stuff up? Because you just know it's not of you. And if you are a channel, it's trusting the first impression or thought or feeling that or sensation that comes up in your body as the direct energy hit that you are asking for. And you have to train, right? You have to act on your intuition and embrace your sensitivity and your empathy gene that makes you unique. And of course, then become aware of some of the fears that you feel in your body, that when you acknowledge that they're there, you have access to the true nature and the wisdom of the infinite self, the one that knows and knows how you tick, right? And being sprinkled with beautiful termite wings. So does this make sense? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? I hope so. Because this is a really important part to access that freedom that so many of you highly sensitive women and men are looking for. It's within you. It's inside of you. It's always been there. And it's kind of like flipping the light switch back on again. So it does take some patience and persistence and presence to keep leaning into this and learn what tools work for you. Maybe this real tool that I'm sharing now isn't the one that works for you. Ensure that you have a community that's supportive of the work that you're doing and what you're creating in the world, and embrace the training days, right? Because when you wake up with that, what contribution can I be to the world today? Right away, what can I be in this moment of making money so that I can have the resources to give back to the things that I care about from a sixth sense? It's all very counterintuitive. But as you get better and your focus increases, those feelings of doubt or feelings of any hesitation that it's not coming from the animal or the plant or the person that you're touching will fade away. And I think that's one of the most important things that you can be as the gift that you are, is feeling a difference energetically, right? In the energy bodies fields, in the etheric and the catheric, how different beings vibrate on different frequencies. So just like hugging one person or one tree will feel different than hugging another person or another tree or another dog or a cat. So too does everything imaginable have a unique frequency code. It's a unique felt sense, the sixth sense. And that feeling is essentially what a thing is without your brain's filters. So if you're building a vocabulary for this new language of sixth sense, this felt sense, this feeling state as your go-to, because it was before you could speak. And normally a person can only think about 7 things at a time with their working memory. This is why why phone numbers are only 7 digits. Did you know that? So with practice, with the training from a place of joy, that you're deepening into your skills and you're deepening into your purpose of being, you're going to find that you can hold complex ideas and objects and places and emotions in this new language of felt sense, of that sixth sense. And then magic happens because the possibilities are truly boundless. So trust that as your felt sense, that vocabulary begins to develop, within you, you're going to be able to access a far greater level of awareness, right? That's where a lot of people channel from. This is where I get the information like that on the spot when somebody asks a question, because I've learned through daily training, it's not something you do once and forget, that when I can hold space for that presence and touch that being or that person, it's an automatic download, and you're no longer limited by how fast you can make pictures or words in your head, because you'll find that you are able to feel everything in that 0 point field. It's that quantum field of instant downloads, and it's a powerful place to be able to support other people. So just remember that the language of feeling is truly like learning a language that you've forgotten, right? Your first language is energy. Your first language is being a feeling, multisensory being that knows and perceives and receives everything. We're emitters and receivers. So if everything is energy, and according to science, our perception of reality can actually change it, right? If you don't have an observer watching, there's no one to witness the shift of this thing. So if you take the observer away, what happens to the energy of this thing? If your perception is no longer changing it by being the observer. So the one thing to think about feels like is as a programming language, right? It's code. It's 0 and 1. It's binary. It's coding that's already encoded in you. It's in your energetic blueprint, your divine blueprint that makes you you, behind the mechanics of reality. Pretty cool, isn't it? So if you remember this language, right, the unspoken word, the sixth sense of feeling, the felt sense, then you can begin to hack the programming of a reality that tells you that everything is fixed, that you don't have power of choice, that you cannot change things, which is a lie. And you'll see that the language of feeling, from a subtle sense of knowing, it's not the normal language that you practice outwardly. It's really feeling that causes thought, and then that becomes the source of our ability to affect positive change. Isn't that amazing? So the language of feeling isn't normal. It's the felt sense of imagination that can describe, rather than just describing things, it creates things, right? It's the cause and the effect. So with practice, with the training, consistent training of keeping appointments with yourself, you begin to really access that ability as an alchemist, as a highly sensitive empath, that's your soul work, to change the underlying patterns of reality. That just makes me so happy, just letting that sink in. Because can you imagine if you actually realized and acknowledged and owned that you are decoding and are able to recreate and outcreate the feels like of the moment just before realization, the pattern of reality would react by producing an expected or predictable effect. Pretty cool. Because this is exactly how you're able to actually hack the code of reality. The possibilities are only limited by your ability to choose it, your commitment to practice your skill, and your willingness to use your creation through imagination to expand out beyond the comfort zones of your current reality. And I love that. And I don't know many schools out there, modern schools anyway, that teach children how to access their sixth sense. If anything, they're doing the absolute opposite of contrast, which later brings up the suffering, because there's so much resistance to being true to ourselves and true in our nature. because of all the years and years of programming and attitudes and beliefs and considerations and judgments and projections and expectations of everybody else out there. That's where we feel trapped, because we're not feeling like we have the freedom through our senses to just be ourselves. So I hope you take some time this weekend. I know this one was really long today. I hope you take some time today to just sit with those tiny sort of acts of discomfort and really get curious about what's making you feel trapped, what's making you feel like you're making it all up, that it's all in your mind, that you couldn't possibly be that intuitive, that you couldn't possibly have communications with animals or other non-human life forces, when you came in knowing this. It's your birthright, and it's what's so needed on the planet right now. It's the sensitives and the empaths and those people that sort of fall outside of the current status quo of normal. You're not normal. You never were. So stop trying to be, because the world's going to be changed by the people that are able to co-create outside of the standards. So I hope I've given you some food for thought. Enjoy your rest of your Friday wherever you are. And let me know if this resonated with you, if you have any questions about today's topic, if you want me to speak about anything else, let me know. Good to see you here, Violet and Mandy. Good. Yeah, I think it's important to come back into focus. All right. Lots of love. Please like it, share it, give me your insights. I appreciate you being here with me. I send you much love. Bye.